Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Abundance Formula podcast. Today's topic is actually one that I haven't talked much about. After I finished interviewing Chris Harder the other week, he and I were chatting about what it is that I do for a living as an orthotic and prosthetic practitioner. And then even after that, my husband and I were talking about perspective. And my husband was telling me, he's like, man, you're so lucky in the work that you do that perspective comes easily to you because of the things that you're exposed to on a day-to-day basis. And I hadn't really thought of it that way. And so I know that Chris had mentioned to me when we were talking, when he was hearing about the work that I do, that I should share more of the stories that I have, because so much of those lessons that I experience on a day-to-day that are super impactful could help a lot of people to hear. And they're real life examples. It's not something I have to make up as a metaphor to teach you about a concept that could apply to your life. It's stuff that I really experience on a day-to-day that's super powerful for me and that I absorb and that has, impacted me. And so I want to start sharing some of those stories. So the first story that I would like to share today is about the little girl who changed my life. And I'll try not to get choked up in this episode because she really did change my life. It's probably the most impacted I've ever felt in my career. That actually moved me to tears in the appointment. And so this little girl, that's what I wanted to title this thing, The Little Girl That Changed My Life. And so the little girl, as far as she had a lot of diagnoses going on, but the main one that started kind of the cascade of everything else was she had amniotic band syndrome in the womb. And so this is where the amniotic band can get wrapped around the baby, and basically wherever it gets wrapped around, it cuts off blood flow. And so the limb or whatever body part it's wrapped around doesn't develop fully past that point or at all. Kind of depends on how tight it gets wrapped and all of that. So for her, normally this doesn't go around their whole entire body. A lot of times it's around a limb. So a lot of the pediatric amputees that I see are children that have been in the womb, experienced amniotic band syndrome, and say their arm maybe didn't develop past that point, or both arms, or their legs. And so we make a prosthetic for that limb. Well, this little girl was the first little girl I'd seen in my entire life where the band wrapped around her whole body, her head, her arms, her face, everywhere. And so because of this, not only did she, of course, so then therefore a lot of things didn't develop fully because of that. And so she had so much going on. I can't tell you how many surgeries she had. But yet she was definitely mentally was there and all this stuff. So the key with this was not only did she have a lot going on as far as like internally, her face didn't fully develop. She was blind because her eyes, the skin there stayed sealed, except for one eye she could see through a little pinhole. Her head was completely deformed. I've never seen somebody look this way in my entire life. Like before I went to see her, in fact, my nurse was saying, she's like, just a heads up, just be ready because of this amniotic band syndrome. Like you might be shocked. And it was true. It was shocking. So her head was completely deformed in all different directions, all different shapes. Her face wasn't fully formed. She didn't have a nose. She had cleft palate. She had to have that repaired. Like I said, she could only see through a pinhole. She had arms and hands, but not all of her fingers. And she had one leg that had the foot and everything. Maybe was missing a toe, but then she was missing her right leg below the knee. And of course, she was extremely skittish. So they let me know this before. She's extremely skittish because she can't see except through this little pinhole. And so she's very, she's had, I think it was like 30 surgeries up to this point, and she was only just shy of 2. So very skittish of anybody medical. And so I went in there, and we'll skip over all the details of, building trust with her, but we built a really great relationship, and I built her a prosthetic leg for her right leg. And this is the part I'll have to try not to get choked up about. So the first time that we put on this prosthetic leg on her right side, we put it on and she stood up. For the first time in her little life, she stood up. And her mom wept. Her mom put on little Converse shoes onto this prosthetic leg that matched her own. And she was so excited that for the first time in her life, she could match her daughter. She wore matching outfits that day, like the clothes, and then she wore matching Converse shoes with her. And besides the fact that she was wearing matching clothes, when this little girl stood up, you guys, it was literally the first time she looked like a person, that she looked like a little girl for the first time, and you could tell in her little soul, it lit up her face because she felt that way. So what this episode is about is helping you guys tap into how wealthy each and every one of us are. And where the wealth lies is in these simple things, you guys, these things that we consider simple, that are around us all the time, at every moment. And I know people talk about this, but you don't really get it. I'm telling you, if you really get it, then like this mom, you should be moved to tears when you stand on 2 feet. You should be moved to tears when you can wear a matching outfit with your child from top to bottom. You should be moved to tears that you heard your alarm clock when you woke up. You should be moved to tears when you get out of bed and walk to the bathroom. You should be moved to tears when you look in the mirror. And what you see in the mirror, you recognize that you're even a human being based on how you look and how you feel about yourself and your reflection. Like, do you all get that? I didn't get that fully until I met this little girl that, wow, she and this mom are experiencing the fullness of joy and gratitude, and they have found the real currency of life. They have tapped into the power of the simple things and how rich we are for the seemingly simple luxuries that we all get to experience on the day-to-day basis. And why I need you to know this is because we need to be no longer blind to the riches that are available to us so that we can experience this kind of fullness of joy every single day, a joy that supersedes our present circumstance. Because you guys, that is priceless. Like when you start living from a place of really realizing how wealthy you are, do you know what kind of change you're going to go out there and make in the world? Do you know how you're going to show up? This story isn't someone to feel guilty for or sorry for, or then on the opposite end, feel bad about your own life. This mom was proud of her little girl. She would walk in there proud. She would match her as much as she could. You know, she was taking devoted care of her. She wasn't worried about how people were looking at her. You guys, she wasn't someone to feel sorry for. Why? Because she's tapped into what life can really be when you actually start shifting your focus away from your disadvantages and shift it to your advantages. When you shift your focus away from your brokenness to your richness, when you shift your focus away from your quote disability to your ability, to your possibilities. She found that. And that's more powerful than what most of us function from on a day-to-day. And I tell you this so that you don't, not so you feel bad of like, oh gosh, I feel really bad, I should be doing better. No, don't focus on there. I want you to take this and say, okay, I'm going to go honor the life that I've been blessed with. The fact that my heart is beating today, I'm rich. I am wealthy. And I'm going to go do something with that. I'm going to start choosing to shift my focus from, yes, you may be in a serious tribulation right now. It's not, this story isn't diminishing that. This child was in an extremely difficult life every single day, and her mom. They could have focused and lived from this place of all the stresses that they did have, but instead they lived from a place of what do I have, not what don't I have. So you can take the story and not feel bad about you needing to maybe step up your perspective and gratitude of your life, but say, okay, I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to honor the life I've been given and the calling that I have, and I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to shift my focus to what I do have, not what I don't have. I'm going to shift away from my advantages and leverage my advantages. I'm going to start shifting my focus on my disability and what are my abilities and what is my possibilities, what's available to me, right? So I want you to honor that, honor your life, and honor the little children like her who lived well, who lived so well with so much less. And again, if your heart is beating right now, you are blessed. This little girl did pass away by the age of 4 from medical complications in her sleep. Yet she lived more fully than most of the people that I come in contact with. And that's a huge thing for us all to realize, you guys, is there are so many people out there living with so much less, showing up so much more. And that isn't made to make you feel bad about yourself. That's made to inspire you and to light a fire in your soul to get out there and overcome the seemingly insurmountable odds. I'm here to encourage you, to tell you that I've seen people do it, that it is possible to, despite what you're going through, to tap into this wealth that is around you, that are in the seemingly simple things. They're not simple when you think about it. Our organs in our bodies functioning properly is a luxury. You know, coming out of the womb with all the things together is a luxury. It's a huge blessing. I remember being so grateful after I'd had my 2 girls, because I see so many children, and I work with so many children that didn't come out with all their parts, or something didn't come out completely normal. And it's such a blessing. But again, even if that is your state, those are so many, they're some of the best people I know. The children are some of the happiest that I know. And they're some of the most inspired that I know, and driven, and like inspirational people I know are people that showed up in this world with so much less. So I want to encourage you all to say, I've seen it done. I've seen people move through the insurmountable with a joy that surpasses and supersedes any circumstance. I've seen it. And it's so powerful. It moved me in that moment, and obviously afterwards to tears, to even talk about this little girl. Guys, that's the kind of life you want to live. The kind of life that the joy that you're able to tap into no matter what's going on in your life, it's something that permeates from you, that moves other people outside of you to tears, the way you're showing up in your life, and it changes someone else's life, that's then going to change someone else's life. And that's the ripple effect that is abundance. That's the ripple effect that is a fulfilled life. So that's what I wanted to share the story with you today, to inspire you to do, to get your mind thinking, to get you to start looking around in your life and finding the things that you're like, wow, you know what? Not everybody has that. Wow, the fact I even get to feel this with my hands. I've got patients that can't feel, can't feel, which is actually extremely dangerous. That's a story for another time. Like, there's so many simple things, you guys, or seemingly simple things that we just don't even think about or recognize in our day to day as a big deal. Is a big deal. To feel temperature is huge, because if this patient of mine, if her arm was resting on a hot car, it would burn her to the bone because she wouldn't know. Or if it was cold, it would burn her to the bone because she wouldn't know. Again, just a brief blip. There's so many examples that I'll share later, on the podcast, of there's so many simple things, you guys, that seem simple, but are complete luxuries, that if you have them, you are so wealthy. And even if you're missing some of them, there's too many out there to tap into. So even you, I'm telling you, this, if you even can look in the mirror and recognize that you are a human being, you are wealthy. I want you to say that to yourself. Even if you're listening at an office right now and you just have to whisper it, I want you to say out loud to yourself right now, I am wealthy. I am rich. I am blessed. I want it to sink in, you guys. And now I want you to go out there today and the rest of this week, and I challenge you to, every time that you want to feel overwhelmed, every time that you want to feel like everything's against you, every time that you want to feel like you just can't do it anymore, I want you to take a pause and to find the physical things, even to start with. Those are often the easy things to step into, the physical things, not the emotional things, because that's what you're in the struggle, is your emotional struggle. So exit the emotional and even just tap into the physical things you have: hearing, taste, smell, sight, that you look like a human being, right? That you can feel temperature, softness, sharpness. This is huge. That your organs are functioning, that your heart is beating, that you can sit upright in your chair unassisted, potentially, right? Start tapping into all the little things that you have, the advantages, not the disadvantages. And I want you to start harnessing those and letting yourself really feel them. Like I said, if we can tap into, like this mother did, being able to be moved to tears by the mere fact that you can match your daughter wearing Converse shoes. That's power, you guys. You can go out there and do anything when you have that level of gratitude, when you have that level of recognition of your currency of wealth. And that's something that can't be taken away from you. So I hope this was impactful for you guys today. Let me know your thoughts on me sharing some of these stories. If it's helpful, if it makes it more real to you, if it inspires you, I would love to know. Share this episode with anyone you think could use it, could use a boost through maybe their hard time, or just could use a perspective shift. I'd love to know your takeaways. Thank you guys so much for listening each and every week. I really appreciate you guys, and I'll see you next week.